This is the Relationship Capital Podcast, where we talk to the top thought leaders and practitioners from around the world about how to grow your most valuable resource, your network. I'm your host, Adrian Chenault, and Relationship Capital is brought to you by your friends at Contact Mapping, the #1 app for building your network. Hey everybody, it's Adrian from Contact Mapping, and I am really excited to have Jeff Olson with me here. So thank you, Jeff, so much for getting together with me.
Pleasure here in Vegas, yeah.
Yeah, we're here at GoPro Recruiting Mastery, and it's just awesome because I'm getting to interview some of the leading people in all of network marketing. And what we're talking about is how to build relationships the right way to grow this business. And so, Jeff, I just want to ask you, what would be your #1 tip for somebody who is wanting to create more success in their network marketing business and they want to do it with relationships the right way?
Boy, it's the big question in everyone's mind is, how do I go out and meet new people? How do I expand my network? How do I build, rapport? I think if I could boil it down to one word, it's curiosity.
Yeah.
And the people that I admire the most, one, they're humble. We know what we know what we don't know. But it's in that space, what we don't even know,
Yeah.
where growth, enlightenment, all this stuff sort of happens. And to be able to be curious sort of infers that you're on this adventure of discovery. And so curiosity, when I go into a room, I don't know anyone, and I sort of get my back up against the wall, it's like curiosity. It's like, the curious George in me kicks in. And I get fascinated with people, and they become an adventure to discover. And I went through a training a long time ago that personal development courses. I will never know my wife.
Yeah.
I think I know my wife. I've been married to her 25 years, but if I can get up every morning and say, I don't even know this woman, and then it becomes a discovery that day. I've tried to develop that over the years, but curiosity, that's kind of my default to go back to, and it puts me in a frame of mind to then shine the light on that person. So
that is really cool, and that's actually great marriage advice along. We got a little bonus of some good marriage advice along the way, and it's so true, right? You have these. We so often have this sort of outmoded frame of reference of what somebody, what they're about. If there's somebody we've known for a long time, where you might know their dreams from when you were friends in college, 20 years ago or whatever. That's all changed, and we don't keep asking those questions. We don't stay curious about people.
Well, we live in a culture now that's sort of media driven, and you see the veneer, you see the front of the cover, and curiosity just sort of, you can't judge a book by the cover.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can, but you learn that once you get in conversation, right? And how to break that ice is begin to be curious. And once curiosity becomes your state or becomes your frame of reference, then the questions just start flowing out of you.
Yeah.
And then conversation happens real naturally.
Yeah. So as you get into that curious state, are there any questions that tend to be kind of your go-tos to get people to start opening up a little bit more to you?
Timeless, principles are timeless. It's friends, family, recreation, money, dissatisfaction, where you going next, where you headed, just simple conversational things.
Yeah.
But in that, you can then, once you sort of see them light up and they get their shining eyes, and the shining eyes is always something I look for in people. When you see their eyes start to shine, you've sort of found something that resonates with them, and then you can kind of ask more and kind of go down that particular path.
Yes.
And people love to talk about what they love to talk about, and once you see it, they open up, right? So.
Yeah. That's so key. Is you're looking for where you're seeing those eyes light up, and then being able to dive deeper, and that's where you really turn the curiosity on and just get them. It almost gets to be where it's almost like you can't get them to stop talking about it because they're excited, but you're learning so much about who they are and what they need.
Yeah, people love to talk about themselves, and we're professional people meeters, so sometimes it transitions into, oh, what do you do, and all of that, but oftentimes they just talk and nothing ever really happens. Well, that's another conversation. I can tell you a story. But yeah, curiosity is what I found to be the best way to get dialogue going real quickly and have meaningful conversations and get to know people pretty quickly. So.
Yeah. No, well, I want to hear this story because I think it helps to illustrate kind of what that looks like in practice. So.
Well, yeah, so I was coming back from a training, and I was on a layover at an airport, sat down at the bar, was having a bite to eat, sat next to this woman. We started a conversation, and we proceeded to talk for the next hour straight. And I was asking all the questions, and I was completely dumbfounded on her story. And she never asked me a thing about her, but what I realized was at that moment, at that time, my role was just to be a listener.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, she was on the run from Mexico because she had challenged her. She had married a Mexican national. She was an American. They had challenged the sort of the local community politically, and there was a hit out on her and her husband. Her husband ran off to central Mexico. She hightailed it out of America, and she proceeded to unpackage this whole story for over an hour, and because they had taken a stand against trafficking.
Oh, wow.
And I was just blown away. I was like, this is surreal. So we talked for an hour, and I was there at that moment, and she had just landed, and she was on her way to connect with her parents, and she just unloaded on me, and I just walked away from that. And by the end, she was crying, and she was giving me a hug and everything.
Yeah.
And that was my role at that moment, just to be a listener. So
yeah. And it's incredible. How do you intersect with somebody like that in that moment, and you hear these stories, and it's remarkable. You hear these stories that will bring you to your knees, these stories that you cannot imagine somebody's carrying this around, and a total stranger will tell you something like that. But your ability to impact lives just by listening to people's stories and being willing to be that listening ear, and then to find ways to serve and to connect, it's such a gift to be able to do that inside of this profession.
I don't think people have a lot of listeners in their life.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. If we're good at what we do, we're just good listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, any other thoughts you have for somebody that's trying to just grow within their business, whether it's related to relationships or anything else? Just what's a tip that you'd have to share with others?
I think just becoming a student of the work. I mean, I think I'm an old professional athlete, and there's a saying in athletics, joy found in effort. And if you can't bring a joy found in effort to the game on the field of play, you got to check yourself, and that I always sort of check myself if I don't have that joy found in effort. Doesn't mean it's always easy, but if you can bring a joy found in effort, there's a lightness of being, and then become a student of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great advice, Jeff. Thanks so much, man. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
this.
it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
You bet.
See ya.